So Ali, what do you think about the test match that's been happening lately? We saw Imran Butt's amazing innings, 91, Fawad Alam 140. What do you think about the test match?
Uh, so I don't think there's anything really that special to be impressed by, because I mean, this is how it should be, right? It's a test match against Zimbabwe, probably the weakest test playing team right now. And if anything, we've performed under par. If you look at stuff like strike rate and all that, I think, what have we scored, around 420 or something?
Yeah.
I feel like that's 460 actually.
Approximately, yeah.
Yeah, I feel like that's actually maybe just like average against Zimbabwe. And just like you mentioned, these players' innings, I just want to talk about the openers real quick. I have these stats here for Imran Butt. So Imran Butt averages around 36 in first class cricket, and this is despite this amazing season that he had. In 2019, 2020, he averaged around 60, which was the basis for his selection. But despite that, he averages around 35, and I think he only has one season out of 5 or 6 that he's averaged above 40. Now, I feel like those stats are pretty horrible, especially considering it's domestic cricket. And selecting someone based on that one season, now you can have a lot of factors why someone can score a lot in one season. You could have extreme like batting friendly conditions, you could have very weak bowling lineups, you could just have a run of really good form, you could have luck. There's so much, right? So you should just the fact that he's only done well in one out of a bunch of seasons, I don't think that bodes well. And we saw it against South Africa where he really struggled, right? Against Zimbabwe, this bowling lineup of Zimbabwe, I feel, is actually weaker than our domestic cricket bowling lineups. So I don't think I would take much away from this series in terms of the batting.
Okay, we'll get back to their bowling in a bit, but I just want to talk about Imran Butt. You mentioned him as well.
Yeah.
91 in the first innings, it was decent. But you spoke about his domestic. I have his stats here. First class average, you mentioned, it's around 37.
Yeah.
Strike rate of 51, which is pretty progressive. If you look at how our current batsmen are batting, getting anything above 50, I think, compared to the other batsmen in our team, it's decent. It's progressive. It's not too fast, but I mean, I'd call it decent. Although, world cricket, the way it's moving forward, you do want to have, 80, 90 test strike rate. That's what moves the game forward, because the dimensions are changing of the game. About Imran Butt, one thing I noticed while doing research on him, he has scored 10 hundreds in his first class career. I think that was the backing. That was one of the main reasons why he was selected. I understand your point that there's so many other players that there's so much opportunity cost, aligned to this decision. But that's the job of the selector, basically. So let's
just one thing about the 1000s you mentioned. Yeah. I think you have to look at that in context. He's played a lot of first class games. I think he's played like 100 plus first class games, and 1000s in that, I don't think it's that impressive personally.
Okay.
And just watching, the stats back it up. If you just watch him bat, he's an amazing fielder.
He's
probably
played
the
so
best,
well. Did you watch? He's a stylish player,
But just, I don't know, against good bowling lineups, it's different.
Basically, what I feel is we tested him too early. You mentioned going to South Africa, difficult pitch, similar to how we tested Danish. But the pitches do play a part, Ali. When someone's on debut.
Those were home pitches.
Yeah. So what I basically feel is that, we do need to give, once we select someone, we should give them their due chance,
Fair enough.
So basically that's what I feel. And he showed it, he showed it yesterday, the way he played, some beautiful straight drives. He was middling the shots. Even if he was going to the field, he was middling them. That's one thing I liked about Imran. But before we move on, I just want to first ask you a little bit about Test cricket. We've seen that in recent times there's been a decline in the viewership, or the passion that people have for looking at the longer format of the game. What do you think about Test cricket, and what's your opinion on Test cricket?
When Test cricket is played between two equally matched good sides, I think we can all agree that there's nothing that even comes close to it, right? But then you have to keep that into perspective. You have two series happening right now in Test cricket. You have Sri Lanka versus Bangladesh, and then you have Pakistan versus Zimbabwe. Now, can you really blame people for not wanting to watch either one of these series? Unless you're a hardcore cricket fan like us, why would the average person tune in to watch this? Let's be honest. Let's keep it into perspective. We should be open-minded about this. When we say that Test cricket is declining, we have to keep it into context. We have to keep the quality of the teams playing, the quality of the cricket being played, the conditions, all of that, right? You still have amazing viewership in look at India versus Australia, the series that just India just won in Australia. Amazing viewership, whether live or you look at YouTube videos, highlights, because it was quality cricket. It was amazing cricket being played, right? Or you look at teams like England and all of that. And this Pakistan versus Zimbabwe series is just a one-sided run fest. It's just nothing remarkable really that stands out to the average viewer who turns on their TV and sees it happening, right?
That's true.
It's easier. So the way I look at it, it's easier to make T20 cricket fun and ODI cricket fun. You can have poor teams playing. It can still be a close game, right?
Yeah.
But it's harder to make Test cricket fun. But when it is fun, it's amazing.
So what's your favorite format of the game, if I had to ask you? Forget about the teams playing, just generally, what's...
So I would say overall, I really love a good ODI, like a good mid-total sort of close ODI game with good batting, bowling, all that between two good sides. I love that, but I love Test cricket as well. And I like T20s, but not as much. Although I am a big fan of like the T20 World Cup. I think those are always fun. What about you? What's your favorite format?
The way I look at Test cricket, regardless of the teams that are playing, I just look at it like cricket in its purest form. I mean, just simply like that, because 5 days, and one thing I don't like in T20s is that the teams, there's so much advertisement. Everywhere you look, there's an ad, there's a logo of a brand, it's like I'm in marketing class right now, But in Test cricket, recently with the Test Championship, with the whole COVID, ICC has allowed more sponsors to be shown on the kit. They've allowed the name and number at the back, which they're trying to move on with the times, and modernize the game. But I feel Test cricket, for me, it's simply about technique. It's about, patience and playing in pressure situations. Every batsman, everyone has the ability to just play at their own rate, play at their own. There's no demand that you have to currently play at. It's all what you want to do, how you see the team, how you assess the situation. We've seen Misbah's joint fastest century. He didn't have to play at that, at that strike rate, but he did. So as opposed to his partners or the other ones in the team, long time back, right? So it's basically how you play cricket, how you see cricket. That's what I love. You have that freedom. The word I'm looking for is freedom, basically. That's why I feel that it's so good to watch, because someone can just be batting. There's no, especially watching England, with the Duke's ball and just the lacquer, the way that the swing, Anderson Broad, the way they bowl, that's, trademark, classic Test cricket for me. So, of course, the big teams do have an effect on that. But even the small teams, watching them, the fact that whose patience can last longer than the other, how long they can play the game. That's one of the main reasons why we saw Zimbabwe play Pakistan in T20s. We've seen them play countless number of ODIs. When it comes to Test, it takes things into a whole new dimension. You can see the strength of the team, and even if you talk about our Pakistan team, I just feel that we need to start to give credit where credit's due, regardless of whether you're playing against Zimbabwe, Australia, whoever you want to play against. But if you've done a good job, like Imran Butt, like whoever it is, I feel that it's a tough task. It is tough, because let's be honest, Zimbabwe bowlers, you mentioned they're not, at the level that, other teams are. But I actually think that the way I will come to that later on. I saw some aspects of their fielding. I saw some aspects of the way they were bowling, which I really liked in the beginning. They did have glimpses of what an international team should have, with their fast bowlers, especially Blessing, Musa Rabbani. He bowled quite well in the beginning. He was able to generate that bounce from the back of the length ball, which did trouble some of our batsmen. So that's just my opinion on Test cricket. It's just so pure, so good to watch. And as both of us know, we've been watching Test cricket, especially Pakistan-England series, for a long time. We love to have it on. Just creating pressure on from one end, and then, for example, Anderson creating pressure with the wide little off the white, he keeps bowling that length, and then suddenly he bowls in a straight Yorker, and one of our batsmen are dismissed. So that's one of the things I love about Test cricket. It's just testing the batsman's mentality. And then we see the mind games of the bowler as well. Because so many times, a bowler has a plan. We saw so many times Hassan Ali tried it yesterday as well. He tried bowling a little wider. Then he tried, or a little short. Then he tried bowling in like the gun Yorker, dead on Yorker, but he missed it. And then he got hit for a 4 and that. So it tests the mentality of both the teams. Whereas in T20, you know that this guy has to hit this ball. In ODI, there's a limited number of balls here. My favorite thing about Test is that it's not just a win-draw, it's a draw option. It's not a win-loss, it's a draw option as well. Teams can fight for the draw as well. It's been a pretty long speech, by the way, but yeah.
Yeah, no,
I
agree with you in essence, but then I always look at it in context between them. I think it's important to look at the teams playing, and I also think like you said, that the scoring rate isn't a big deal in Test cricket. I think the scoring rate is also a demand of modern cricket in ODIs, T20s. I think that's part of what makes it fun, right? It tests, it's just a whole another dimension in the batsman's game. Can he score at this current rate? I think that's what also makes a great batsman in the modern day and for a while now. So I personally like I think all formats have their place in cricket. Yeah. But
even if T20 is the cash cow, even if it is making the most money, I feel that it's only doing so well because we have the backing of Test cricket. Without Test cricket, have you heard of that the pricing scheme? Where you have small, medium, and large, and you place large really close to medium. The pricing, just so that you understand that people can go for large more, they spend that extra amount of money. I feel it's really similar to ODI, Test, and T20 here, because Test matches, you can't have it without having T20s you can't have without having Test matches. Test matches just give the game that extra sense of class. I mean, it just makes the game so much more joyful to watch. And one thing I like is that now what Test does is it makes players into subcategories. You have players that only play T20, you have players that only play ODI, you have players that only play Test.
Yeah,
there's no specific demand for a certain player to play all 3 formats of the game. That's why it allows the players to specialize in whatever that you've seen. Shan Masood, for instance, you've seen James Anderson, Broad, players.
I think Anderson and Broad were really good in ODIs as well, personally.
Yeah, of course they are, But the way that they've transitioned their game, each player chooses what they want to be good at, Hafiz chose T20. I mean, he even says he's open for white ball cricket, for example, but it all depends. So I really respect players that look at Test cricket, because let's be honest, you're not making the most money in Test cricket. You're not getting most of the advertisements, the brands. Everyone wants to focus on T20, as I mentioned to you. Everywhere you look, there's an advertisement, We saw this in the PSL as well. It gets a little annoying, to see when everywhere you look, it's like, it feels like you're watching an advertisement, So one of the main reasons why I like Test cricket is because it's just pure to watch.
Yeah,
it's just pure. I mean, for lack of
it brings up another debate, right? Yeah. Can a player be considered one of the all-time great players if they're only good in one format? It's an interesting debate. Like, you look at T20 specialists or Test specialists. Let me give you a good example. Let's look at Yunus Khan as an example. Yeah. Amazing Test batsman. Probably in the top 3 Test batsmen we've ever had, but not the best ODI or T20 career in terms of his batting. Right? Can players like those go down as Can players like those be considered as good, in your opinion, as players who are amazing in all forms? Like, you look at De Villiers, Sangakkara, Kohli, these types of batsmen.
For me, I really. What do you think? Why don't you answer your question first?
So I think that there's something special about a player who's really good in all formats. Personally, I just think that those players are unrivaled. You look at throughout history, Lara, Viv Richards, all these players.
Shaheen Afridi in recent times, man, he's playing bowler, every format, right? I feel.
So I think just the ability to adapt your game and dominate bowlers on all levels against in all conditions, in all formats. I think that has a special place for me, and a player who can be amazing in one format, I don't think personally in my eyes, is not going to be at the level of that other player. And I don't mean that a player like Yunus Khan isn't an amazing batsman. I think his achievements in Test cricket cannot be understated, right? But I just feel like those types of players are
for me
they're just better.
For me though, I feel that the hallmark of a great cricketer, not just a batsman, is how they perform in Test cricket. For me, it's my opinion. I will not rate a batsman unless I see him perform in Test cricket. And I'll rate him even higher if I see him perform in Australia, if I see him perform in South African conditions.
So is Babar really your favorite batsman?
No, in terms...
Because
Babar,
let's be honest, Babar hasn't done. He's good, but like if you look at how he's done in ODIs and
Babar
T20s,
himself said, like, let's be.
He has 100 away from home in tests.
Let's be
at 26.
Frank here right now. He himself said he will not even rate himself unless he makes number one of Test. Yeah. Right, so he doesn't care about the T20 ranking that he has. He doesn't care about the ODI now. Right now, he's number one. Of course, ODI is a step ahead of T20, but Test cricket for me is the hallmark of a great batsman. That's where you go down in the book of legends.
I agree with you.
That's why I feel like Yunus Khan, he's for me, he's a legend. 10,000 plus runs.
Yeah.
I mean, that's
but that's not what I'm saying. I'm not saying that.
I get your point.
Yeah.
AB de Villiers, players like that.
He's also amazing in Test cricket.
He's good, amazing in Test cricket. But what I feel is nowadays there's so much cricket happening. We can look back in the day. There wasn't. If you look back in Yunus Khan's time, back before that, there wasn't every country mostly didn't have a league of their own. So there's so many options to play. Players have to prioritize their own, what they want to do, every player has their own. And let's be honest, at the end of the day, it is a money-making game, it is their bread and butter that they have to, achieve, basically. So we have to understand that players are not just tools, but they're also humans as well. There's a whole human dimension to this as well. So let's move on from here. Do you have anything else to say to that?
Not for now, I think.
Okay, sure. So let's talk about another batsman who's only in our Test squad. He's been out for 11 years and he's had a difficult time. You wonder who it is. He's gone on to acting. He's so deprived. You saw that. How did you like it? It was pretty good, man. This guy, he's professional. He's committed. That's one thing I could say. He's been out for a long time, and only some players who have that, some people who have that drive to keep going and, achieving what they want to do. Just because of his awkward stance, that's one of the main reasons I feel that it wasn't aesthetically pleasing to some selectors, was one of the main reasons why he was out of the team. But I think I know everyone knows who I'm talking about. It's Fawad Alam.
Yeah.
So, Ali, what do you think about
I have
Fawad?
A lot of admiration for him. I'm not as much of a I'm not as crazy about him as like a lot of people, but I have a lot of respect and admiration for his grit and his attitude. I feel like no one can question his. I think it's very un-Pakistani in terms of, you look at a lot of our cricketers always crying in the media, always tweeting and always playing victim. He never did that. He just stuck to performing, right? He in domestic cricket, improving his game, all that.
I was watching one of his. I'm so sorry for interrupting you. We spoke about crying. I was watching one of his interviews. Just the fact that he's a man of principle, because the anchors were pushing him to say something negative about the PCB. I don't know if you saw that interview as well.
Probably. It's been more than once.
And he was maintaining his ground, maintaining his stance that I'm still committed to this. So he's someone that's very smart, like he's a thinker. I was watching your last video, you spoke about MS Dhoni.
Yeah.
I know there's no comparison here, but just the way that the player uses the brain, in that aspect of the game, I feel this guy, he's thinking about the future. Many of our players, as you mentioned, they don't think about, of our ex-players, I really like our current setup that we have.
Yeah.
And I don't want to say anything negative, I feel like, everyone should be given their due chance, and that's not why I'm here. I'm here to talk about, especially the positives, what I love about cricket. So what I feel is that, this guy, he's really, he knows where he's gonna be. He has an ambition and he follows that. If you asked me 5 years, I think even if we asked you, we would never think Fawad Alam was gonna be in the team. Later on, the way.
Yeah.
If he's being ignored for so long, someone selects him, now he's in the team. It's a big thing. Sorry, you were talking about him.
No, I was just saying to still fight it out despite not being selected. And despite whatever you think of him, he did deserve selection in the Test squad. I feel like a lot of his good years have been robbed. I think he would have... I don't know if it would have made a difference to our away record that much. I think it still would have been... He would have been really good in the middle order. But at least in the UAE, I think he would have scored a ton of runs.
Exactly.
I think he would have scored hundreds and hundreds. Like, after Yunus Khan, he would have probably been our top scorer during that time. So just to be robbed of that is... I feel like it's unjust, but like what's done is done. And to see him
what do you think about his conversion rate? I have his stats here. He's 35
450s, all hundreds, right?
Yeah. no 50s, man.
And
Like,
that's what I meant. Like all 450s have gone to
so
100.
Age
right?
55, average of
That's where-
42.71 recently.
Yeah.
He's playing with a strike rate of 37, which is not too. I mean, you look
I
talking about. It does take time. He's only played 4 games, as you mentioned. So it does have that.
I mean, he's played more than 4 games. He just scored 450s, right? Or has he scored a 50 in all his games?
I mean, the conversion rate is 100%. I mean, if you look at it, so he was out for around 11 years. And as I mentioned to you, 400, no 50s, amazing conversion rate.
Yeah, and I think that conversion rate comes from the, what do you call it? The
grit.
The experience that he has in first class cricket, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
That's where the conversion rate comes from.
As I mentioned to you before, he did have that awkward stance. But do you think that was a good reason for the selectors to ignore someone? I mean, you look at Fakhar Zaman. You know? Now, he's had that awkward stance as well.
Yeah.
What that awkward stance does, I want to talk a little bit about that stance. So, I was watching him bat in the previous test series, and some of the commentators were mentioning. So, he does have that stance like Chandar Paul.
Yeah.
But then he eventually, if you watch him, he has that 2 second, maybe 1 second switch where he suddenly changes to a normal stance. Right, and then he starts to play. So many commentators argued that if he's anyways going to bat in that position, why does he have that 2 second or split second switch, and then he starts playing his normal cricket? For me, and while I was watching him, one of the reasons why I noticed this, and I think he mentioned this as well, was because when he rotates, when he gets into that position that he's going to play the ball, it eventually makes him more alert. Have you noticed this? He's batting like this, and he suddenly he starts to play straight. And what that does is that makes him more alert. It makes him available to face the ball better. Yeah. And I feel that equips him with the ability to play spin better, Yesterday I saw him playing, it seems like he puts a lot of effort into playing his pull shot, into playing that slog sweep. But it is effective. Let's be honest about that. What do you think about that?
I mean, I feel like as good as he's been, this is expected of him. Because of how many runs he scored in first class cricket, how much experience he has. He's like scored a ton of runs. It's absurd. And so, I mean, he's playing well. So we shouldn't go too crazy because
100%.
Like every player is at the end of the day, like he's still playing for Pakistan. And just the fact that I think while he's scoring, just keep giving him credit for it, but don't put him on a pedestal.
Absolutely, I agree with you. The reason why I was inclined to do that was because he's been through so much,
Yeah, that's one of the reasons.
Because he's so mentally tough now. He's been through that, whereas he can, absorb the pressures that exist within becoming a star. That's why I feel he has that. But definitely, that's what puts him. That's what puts him on, a little bit, like on the step.
Differentiates him.
Yeah, it differentiates him from other players. Let's talk about Abbas now.
Yeah.
We were talking about this
we
before.
About this earlier.
I just said, just want to address this once and for all. What I think about Abbas and just what we feel about the way that Abbas
strong opinions on this.
Go for it.
So we all saw the hat trick he took in county cricket, all those wickets he took in.
So let me just recollect. So it was a 6 for 11, if I'm not wrong, and then he got a 3, and then he got a total of 9 wickets in the game. So
yeah. So the thing about Abbas is there's 2 phases to his international career. I think we need to understand. There was a phase around up till I want to say like 2018 or 2017.
Yeah, that was his best year.
That was his best phase because while he's never been in fast, he was bowling around the 125, 130, up max 135 mark, right? Which with his skill...
Back then, not even now. Yeah. Now if you saw him against...
That's what I'm about to say. Yeah. So he's a skillful bowler. He knows how to read the batsman. He's very disciplined bowler as well, right? So... with that pace, he was still troubling the batsman a lot. But over the last 2-3 years, he's become completely ineffective in international cricket in terms of taking wickets. He's still economical.
No, he's not. That's the worst part. He's not even economical.
Yeah, but in terms of look at his stats. I think he's averaging like 40 or something, or 50 or something. I have
stats here with me. If you're talking about the 2018 season, 38 wickets in 1 year. 38 wickets.
Test cricket?
Average of 13. Yeah, Test cricket.
Oh, go on.
Play T20.
No, I thought
but yeah,
domestic,
so
like
average of 13.76.
Yeah.
Okay.
crazy number.
38 wickets, fine. You made it to the World Test Team of the Year, right?
Yeah.
2019, 5 matches, 11 wickets, 44 average.
Yeah,
Look at that. Look at that spot.
Exactly.
So then 2020, he still improved a little bit, 5 matches. 5 matches is a lot. Let's just take into context, many people don't understand, it's not just one match, it's not just one goal. You have 2 innings in that match, right? It's a whole spectrum. So it's a lot. 5 matches is a lot. 10 wickets with an average of 31. It's all right because we do compare to the other bowlers in our team. This is when Yasir Shah was getting hammered as well, So we do have to understand the context that we're looking at. We can't just look at one player, compare him with his past performances and not understand the scenario that existed during that time. And one more thing I want to talk to you about. We were talking about his performances in 2018. And you look at Fakhar Zaman, you look at all these new players that come in that are so successful, Noman Ali recently. When a new player, a debutant, comes into the team.
Young player.
Right? When a new player comes into the team, it's very difficult in most cases for the opposition to study him. But let me just complete what I'm trying to say. So it's difficult for him, for the opposition to study him, to understand where he's going to bowl, how he's going to bowl, the drift that he's generating from this specific surface. Because as we mentioned before, the Pakistan pitch is different from the South African pitch. One of the reasons I feel that Abbas was extremely successful during that time is especially because maybe we mentioned he has a lack of pace, but he was dead on accurate. And also the batsmen, or the team as a whole, the other opposition teams weren't able to study him really effectively. However, then they just try to understand that, okay, this is a certain way of playing him,
Yeah.
So what I'm basically trying to say is once you play someone more, once they've been in the international circuit for a long period of time, the opposition does tend to sort of, understand their game plan. However, now we saw with Fakhar Zaman, sorry for having a huge tangent, but he's been able to develop his game, right? We saw it recently. He's been able to enhance his game, change certain factors. He was working with Hafiz, working with the other coaches, So each player should have that. And I think Abbas he's really capable of it, of enhancing his game, understanding, okay, this is my weakness. One of the main things about a good player is that they understand their weaknesses. They understand their limitations and they're able to work within that, So
I don't think this applies to Abbas. I agree in general with you. Like new player, obviously going to do better. He's not studied all that.
One of the reasons.
But the reason this doesn't apply to Abbas is because as a bowler, like I mentioned, the reason I mentioned his speed earlier, now he bowls, his average speed is around 120, 125. And he has regressed in terms of that.
Absolutely.
And the reason that makes a difference is because now batsmen can, as we've all seen, they stand like a mile outside their crease and they negate the LBW aspect that he brings, right? And it's so easy to play him off. You look at tailenders doing that. They stand outside their crease. And that 120, a lot of people are like... So one thing as well, you mentioned earlier that Yasir Shah was getting hammered, all that. So his stats, put them into context. He's one of our strike bowlers. His job isn't to contain. His job is to take wickets.
Yeah.
That's his job, right? But the fact that batsmen can stand so far outside their crease and completely negate him, it's impossible almost for him to take a wicket. And a lot of people are comparing him to Glenn McGrath, and they're like, even McGrath didn't have pace. McGrath used to bowl 140, 135 average. There's no comparison. A 120 is basically a slightly faster spin ball without the spin, right?
It's like Afridi
so
bowling, right?
120 is just so easy to negate. And then you can say that just have the keeper stand up, but still, like, do you really want the keeper to stand up in the first few overs of your test match?
Right, against England.
Yeah.
I agree with you
his
on that.
His pace is going down, and it's very difficult at his age. He's probably...
Yeah, he's not getting any
Let's
younger.
be honest. His official age is what, like 34, 35?
Official age.
But what is it? What is his age?
I don't have it on me, but yeah, definitely he's
it's like 34, 35.
Yeah.
Now you add like 3-4 years to that because it's Pakistan, right?
But what I want to ask you is...
So his pace isn't going up.
Now. He's been out at the international circuit for a while. Okay, he is a little bit off the, where he'd want to be in terms of age, but did you watch his recent performance? We mentioned this with Hampshire.
Yeah, I watched it.
But from there,
That's
do you feel
cricket.
I understand, but do you feel like he does have that spark? Or do you feel that... what was basically what I'm trying to ask you is, what was the reason for him
doing well in that and not in international cricket?
No, just generally, forget international. Just what was the reason for him doing well there in that
county batsman, it's different. First of all, those conditions, he's going to get the ball to move and seam around a lot, right?
Yeah, overseas.
But
England.
those batsmen weren't if you look at most of those dismissals in county cricket, the video of them,
Yeah, a lot
they
of them were
weren't
going to
standing
slips.
outside their
Yeah.
crease. They were standing back normal.
Yeah.
But whereas if you look at international cricket, they were all
So they
all
weren't
stand outside
assessing
their
how to
crease.
play him
Exactly,
properly, right?
Exactly. Perfect way to put
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
They weren't.
Yeah.
But we all know what happened. So as harsh as it sounds,
Yeah.
unless Abbas, I feel he can get his pace back to at least the high 120s.
20s, yeah, high
Which-
120s.
Which is not
130.
asking for much, right? I don't think he can really be that successful
Yeah.
again as a wicket taker. That's just how I see it.
You mentioned one thing about a strike bowler, Yasir Shah. Even with Yasir Shah, one of the main reasons why I feel he wasn't getting his wickets is because when you have a bowling opportunity, it's not just one bowler. It's about a
Yeah.
bowling partnership. One guy provides the pressure from one end, one guy's able to capitalize. And it's not just one guy and the other guy. Sometimes it works in reverse as well.
Yeah.
Yasir Shah didn't really have that with him. We didn't really have that.
Bowling partnership.
Yeah, and it was mostly he was bowling a fast bowler with him. But if you have a proper spin partnership, it could.
Even the fast bowlers getting hit, right?
Yeah,
So,
exactly, right? We spoke
Yeah.
about Naseem Shah back then. We spoke about. We didn't speak about Naseem. but
Mohammad
we've-
Musa,
yeah.
all these bowlers.
These bowlers coming in, domestic bowlers who need to make their way up. You can't just select someone and put them in the team right away. You have to judge them based on a solid domestic platform.
Yeah, exactly. I agree. In
Right,
Test cricket especially.
I was so happy that we put Sajid Khan. We saw his recent result.
Yeah.
We'll talk about this later on. But we took a huge tangent from Abbas. But what do you feel? Should we move on from here?
Yeah. I think I've made my point.
But really quickly, I feel like he's.
Established it.
I saw something else right now. He's slippery. One thing about Abbas that's been, that's made him really.
He has a bowling brain for
yeah, a
sure.
bowling brain. He's one more thing. We spoke about mental toughness before. Abbas, he was in a leather factory before. He's been through so much as well. So we really have to understand the context and why he's. These are one of the main reasons why I'm mentioning he can crank it up later on. He can change his game because he has the mental stability to do that basically.
But
yeah.
One last thing.
Yeah.
I don't think it's that easy to overcome your body at that age. Like once you're regressing, you can't mentally force your body like bowl faster, right?
Sure.
Do you know what I mean?
I get you. It is difficult to generate that pace. Yeah. Let's quickly talk about. You want to talk about our openers?
We talked about Imran Butt already.
No,
right?
I mean
So
Abid Ali.
Yeah, we can talk about Abid Ali.
Sure. What do you? think about
Abid
it?
Ali. So one thing about him, I'll say, is that he has been a beast in domestic cricket.
Yeah, we'll make this really quick so that we can talk about.
He's
the T20s later on.
scored a lot in domestic
Yeah.
cricket. Now, if you look at him bat, so what do you think of the 50 he made and he took off his helmet and raised his bat? What do you think of that?
So
What's your opinion on that?
The way I look at that is that it's a sign of a player coming back into form. He's had some tough patches. I'll talk about what I feel about Abid later on. Do you want me to give you my opinion on
the
Abid?
50?
On
Give
the
me
50,
the
I feel he played a lot of the shot.
No, on the celebration.
I
of the
will,
50.
but let me just
Yeah.
talk about his innings as well a little
Yeah.
bit. He was playing a lot on the offside. He was playing a lot on the leg side. He wasn't freeing himself up to play on the offside like he normally does. In recent times, I've seen as well, especially with Abid Ali, he's not willing to be as he's not. He's so scared of getting out, as a lot of our batsmen are. Because they're hardly given any chances in Test cricket. Everyone's seen how, for example, Shan Masood's been dropped. Even though Shan Masood has a better average than Abid Ali, I don't understand why. Maybe they're trying to give him another chance, but. On that celebration, I'm not here to make fun of anyone. I respect him for that. I respect him because we should never underestimate our opposition. Zimbabwe, whatever people can say about that, I really feel that we need to give him his due credit. He played well. Let's be honest. And if it wasn't for him, I don't think Imran Butt would have been where he was. What he did was he played his own innings, but he carried another person's innings as well. So with that amazing partnership, so I respect him for that.
Yeah.
I respect him for taking the game seriously. And yeah, it was his day, so I respect to him.
I feel like that 50 it's a little over the top to celebrate a
Sure.
50 like that in Test cricket against any team, let
Sure,
alone
but
Zimbabwe.
Keep in mind, he's
Because
coming
I feel
back
like
into form,
sure.
Yeah.
But he's scored a lot of runs in domestic cricket.
Yeah.
This isn't some young guy, right? And just celebrating like that, I feel like it sort of hints at the mindset that you're content with what you've achieved, right?
Yeah.
Instead of like you raise your bat, you're like, I'm going for a 200 here
Yeah.
because this is the perfect time to get it. So that's.
So I guess he's
But
one
it's
of the
not the
players
biggest deal.
I guess he's one of the players that looks at it like one step at a time. Not just setting big goals, but small goals and achieving them. Probably that's his mentality. Quickly, I want to talk about his stats. 33 years old, average of 37.
33.
On average.
Yeah.
I mean, last 2 years, average of 20. In 2019, that was his best year. He had an average of 160. He played 2 matches, but he had an average of...
who was that against? Like Sri Lanka or something?
Basically, yeah. But what I'm trying to basically say is there's been a drop in his strike rate. What I feel is, as I mentioned to you before, he's not confident enough. He's not willing to take on the bowlers. That's been one of the primary reasons why he's not able to, he's just a little bit, as I mentioned to you before, he's just a little bit wary of his position in his team, in Pakistan team,
Maybe, but
one thing right now that could be of little benefit to him is that we don't have anyone knocking on the door. We don't have Imran Butt. Yeah, he's played well in his most recent match, but we need to... Shan Masood, I was reading that he went to South Africa or something to work with Gary Kirsten, so hopefully he performs well, but... besides that, we don't have a lot of strong openers that can just come into the fray, and so he should have that assurity of his position. We've been playing him for a long time now. He shouldn't have that fear that what I've seen. At least that's my reading of it. Maybe it's not fear. Maybe it's a technique issue. Skill. But yeah, so what do you think?
I don't think it's a fear thing. It might be. I can't know that, but just based on those stats that you said, I don't think you can look at yearly stats if it's 2 matches. That sample size is so tiny, right? Weak opposition, you have all these factors. Yeah. I think just looking at his technique, he is a little vulnerable on the offside. Yeah. But for now, I guess I don't think he deserves to be dropped or anything. I don't think I think we should just keep trying him for a little while.
I sort of feel a little bit on the contrary towards that. I feel like if you look at, I have Shan Masood's figures here with me. Average of 30. He hasn't scored in 2021, right? He's had a bad year. He's hardly played any matches. Yeah. But 2020, his average is 36. 2019, average of 40. 2018, average of 42. So what I basically feel is, and it's not even, when I look at Shan Masood, I feel that our board basically thinks, or some people in our board, or maybe our coaches think that he's a good overseas player. He plays well in England, he plays well in Australia, plays well in New Zealand, but that's not the case. The only place where he has a decently solid average is in Australia. Australia, it's 39. He's not above 39, or he's not above 30 in
surprising considering
England,
against the short ball. He's been kind of weak.
I mean, yeah, in recent times. But one thing I always remember is that, for example, that century in Manchester that he scored.
He was dropped 5 times, missed stumping.
But basically, all so he's a class batsman. I mean, when I watch him play, he has solid technique. He's different from our usual. He's not very orthodox if you compare him to the other batsmen that we have. He has a different way of going about the game, and he has a different mental strength. I mean, for lack of a better term, he has a different way of thinking. Yeah. That's why I sort of feel that. I mean, if Abid is in the team based on his performances, he barely has an average compared to Shan Masood.
But Abid has done better in domestic cricket than
Okay,
Shan.
Fine, but we're looking at international right now, right? Abid's been into, was it 2-3 years now? Abid's been playing for
something like
that. For Test cricket, so I just want to understand what our selection criteria is when it comes to Test cricket. Not, I understand T20 and ODI, but Test cricket, and I'm happy that they gave Sajid Khan a chance in this game. I really feel that he can do wonders. Wait, did they give him a chance? I don't think
they did. They did,
right?
Bold.
Yeah, I'm just getting a little confused. But yeah, so one thing I noticed as well, I just really want to quickly talk about this before we move on to T20. With Shan Masood, there's a little bit of a front foot mishap, and we've seen against James Anderson, he has had issues, so
especially in that first tour,
they're so worried about facing the in-swinger that when the outswinger comes, they suddenly play it, and then it nicks the edge and it goes to slip. So that is an issue which we've seen. I even saw it with Imran Butt in the beginning of his innings versus Zimbabwe. So I feel like that is something that our batsmen need to overcome. It is a bit difficult. It's not as easy said as done, but it does take time. Yeah. So do you just want to quickly talk about Zimbabwe, their bowling?
I don't think there's much to talk about personally. I haven't been...
I saw some glimpses of good fielding.
That impressed.
Hit wickets. I mean, run out, direct throws, good fielding, little bit. So what I feel is that, this team, it can compete. I'm not saying win, but it can compete. And that's something that, you mentioned in your video about Pakistan, Zimbabwe, that this team, it does have a really, in T20.
The bowling lineup in
T20.
A
decent bowling lineup.
I was actually impressed with their bowling in their
T20. Comparing it to South Africa before
which I thought was better than South Africa D.
So I guess that's it for Test. It's been a long time that we've been talking about this, but
let's move on to the real what's about to happen.
Let's talk about T20s really quickly. I mean, just to maybe we can wrap this up in 10-15 minutes max. What do you think about T20s? What do you think about the way our current team is going? We've spoken a lot about the middle order. We've spoken a lot about bowling, partnerships, spinning options. Just maybe if you can give
I
me
mean,
a summary
I'm not gonna.
and quickly what
So
you feel that we can work on.
I think there's a lot to work on. The World Cup is in 6 months. This, like I said in my individual video, this team that played against Zimbabwe and South Africa, I don't think, like this exact team, 11, I don't think this team has a chance at being contenders. So a lot needs to be done. Biggest problem is always going to be that middle order. And we keep saying like, oh, whatever. That's a big deal. That's a huge deal. Like you can't go in with 3-4 batsmen in T20 cricket. Like you need a good solid middle order that can explode and finish games.
Yeah.
And we don't have any middle order. Like I keep saying, we don't.
I get you.
It's scary.
So Imad is a solution for that. Malik is a solution. What's the solution?
Imad should be in the team. I've been saying that for a while now. There's no basis on like I do not understand how he can be dropped from T20s in ODI. Like I don't understand, considering his record with the bat. He doesn't take many wickets, but he's economical. So there's just like it, especially because of the people that he's been replaced with. So it just doesn't make sense.
I understand if they wanted to gauge a different perspective.
Maybe,
try maybe Nawaz in that opening position. We were watching South Africa with Linda coming in. You know, he performed pretty well. I want to come to the PSL a little bit later on. You know, if we have time for that. But just really quickly about what do you think about Malik?
So Malik's been giving all those statements in the media, very clever. I think Malik is very clever in terms of what he says. Like he's always been very clever. So shout out to his PR people, whoever they are. He said something about we need a white ball coach or something, which makes it very clear to me that Malik has a disagreement with Misbah. Like it's very clear. Just the fact that he says we need a special coach for white ball cricket. He obviously isn't in Misbah's good books, or he doesn't like Misbah, or something's up, right? So the thing with Malik is that if we're looking at just this middle order, I feel like he walks in. Like he might not even do anything at the World Cup. Yeah, T20s. He might not do anything at the World Cup. I mean, there's a chance he doesn't do anything. He doesn't have the best World Cup record.
But he's better than who we have right now.
But what we have right now, he walks in. Yeah.
For me, I agree with you on that. I feel like he should be, especially if we have, let's say they bring back Hushdil. Let's say they bring back if they are, right? I mean, let's just try to understand from the selector's point of view, not ours, right?
Yeah.
The selector's point of view. Let's say they bring them back. What I'm trying to basically say is you cannot have players, I've said this so many times before, you cannot have players that perform 3 out of 10 times, 2 out of 10 times with each other, among each other.
Yeah.
Right? What does that mean? That means that you have to have someone who's consistent regardless of, okay, Malik picks up towards the end, just like how we see Rizwan picks up later on.
Yeah.
But what he does do is that he provides that consistency that, you know, we've been, getting bowled out so many times recently. You know, he provides that consistency. At least there'll be someone to stay with, someone to stabilize the innings while someone else comes and starts, taking the role of the aggressor. So he does add that. Malik does add that, and so will Imad. Imad has a tendency to be a little bit rash. I mentioned to you about this before, but it does make it a little bit exciting. I didn't really read about Malik's comments, what he mentioned, but about his performances, I feel he does have that anchor role that he's been portraying so well in the past.
Yeah.
Now we can argue
he's good against spin.
We can argue that the dimensions have changed. In India, Johnny Bairstow, these type of guys that are coming.
That's what I was going to say.
Hardik Pandya. Let's talk about the hitters. Who is it? Butler, Pandya.
One thing before you mention that,
I
think you said he's a good accumulator. You need someone in T20 like
accumulators,
accumulator like an anchor, stabilizer who can hit, right? Yeah. But in T20 cricket, especially now, like you were just about to mention, you run the risk of having too many of those types of. You have Babar and Rizwan, right?
Yeah.
Most good teams won't have more than 2 of those types of players. But the issue is, we're talking about Pakistan. Which consistent hitter do we have? We have no consistent hitter right now in the team, right?
Yeah.
So you have to make do with what you have, and you have to play those types of players.
Have
who?
Fahim Ashraf that can come in later on.
He's not a hitter.
But that's what I'm saying.
He's not played one good innings in T20s.
Coming to my point. In recent, if you look back, I think he has had some good performances, some good cameos that he can put in.
He has.
Even in I've seen him recently in ODIs, especially, like mixing it up. Basically, what I'm trying to say is, I'm talking about potential here. What I'm basically saying is that you know,
You were mentioning hitters in other teams.
yeah. You know, what I'm basically trying to talk about is that we can say that, you know, this person is. We should look at players in different positions, and it's not just about adding one. Like I mentioned this before as well. It's not just about adding this player, trying this player, trying this player. No, we've tried like maybe I think 10 plus options. There's only one guy left, Azam Khan. You know, fine, give him a chance, okay? Because you've tried everyone else. It's going to be unfair on him if you don't. It's sad that he's not given a chance.
No, I was going to say it's sad that we've tried so many.
What I feel is try them in different positions. Play Fahim a little bit up. You know, give him because in the World Cup, it's not certain that our hitter, our main hitter, our middle order batsman is going to come in the 15th over. No, they can come in the 5th over if we get rattled out.
Dynamic. But
so we need to allow our big hitters to come in earlier positions and try to understand the game from them. Maybe then they'll gauge a better aspect. Recently, we saw Joss Butler playing really early on for Rajasthan. Right? I didn't really watch that.
He opened for England as well for a while.
So we have to try them in different positions. I feel that's the only way that the players will gauge what position they're better at. Because let's be honest, it's not working for the team. You know this right now.
And I agree that something needs to be done, right? Something needs to be done.
The solution is not to change players. The solution is to try players in different positions for me. Because who else do we have? I mean, let's look at it realistically.
That's it is sad. Like
we can't say bring Joss Butler. No, we can't say that. You know, so we just have to try to understand where we stand right now, and the only thing we can do, what's left. I mean, we can't do anything.
We can't.
Right?
It's
we
have
a
to
little
try
hopeless,
them in different
especially
positions. Considering we have 6 months.
I mentioned to you about having that consistency, that anchor role. Hafiz does have that, but recently Hafiz hasn't been clicking. You mentioned, you know, so we do need to understand that this is the way to go.
Maybe.
I mentioning the big hitters.
I'm a little,
This is something fun to talk
about.
The
best? Yeah.
So Butler, Pandya.
Yeah.
Who else?
What do you call him?
Van der Dussen for South Africa.
He's more of a normal.
Miller, my bad.
Miller's good.
Yeah.
There's just so many. It's overwhelming. Yeah. Other teams have like just so many. Rohit Sharma when he's set, like,
bro, he's so good.
No one better.
He's the best.
Guptill can hit when he's set, and then you have all these like New Zealand new players that New Zealand tried in T20s. You have
Seifert,
Warner and Finch. Warner and Finch are really good. Maxwell.
So
Maxwell
these players playing in Indian pitches, you know, it's gonna be.
They play the IPL too, man.
It's gonna. It's West Indies. We're forgetting West Indies. Karen Pollard, Russell
is scary.
Who do we have? You know, so
that's what I keep saying in my videos.
I mean, just to like spike it up, Khush Dil.
Yeah.
He can. I mean, we just need to give him a little confidence.
I played that amazing super over against Zimbabwe.
I mean, look, we can add humor to this, but I feel let's try to understand the real potential that we have in playing them in different positions. I feel there's nothing else left, so we might as well try that, and we might as well give Azam Khan another a go. You know, I feel like
my only thing with the playing in different positions is, do you really want to displace the 2 or 3 batsmen who are actually doing something? Like Rizwan, Babar.
See, we've put Imad out. We both of us agree that Imad gets back into the team. He walks back into the team. Yeah. We've already displaced him. He's not in the team.
No, I meant you want to displace in the sense that you want to move those guys down, those guys who are actually performing. What I'm trying to say is we have, what do you say, 6 months before the World Cup starts? Yeah. It's high time. It should have been high time before, but we have 2 series, both against England and then World Cup.
Yeah, so this is... Isn't it reminiscent of what happened in the World Cup? Right before we were playing England, we got hammered by them. Yeah. Right before. We had a pretty good World Cup though, but what I'm trying to...
Our team, I think ODI team was still okay.
Do you think Sarfraz walks into our team?
I don't think so, because...
As a middle order batsman?
I don't think so. Because he doesn't bring...
Playing that Malik role, basically.
I think Malik plays that role better than Sarfraz.
He plays spin as well, Sarfraz plays it well.
He does, but he can't
Malik accelerate.
Can down the ground, he can hit 6 against spinners. Sarfraz really can't, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know. I mean, you need a backup keeper, so he's going to be in the squad for sure. But I don't know about the 11.
Yeah, true. I think we've had a really long podcast today. Yeah. But would you want to...
I think this is... like the PSL is coming up. When is it? When is the PSL?
The PSL, I think it's in June.
So it's like
Karachi
really
got Guptill, for instance, and you know.
It's a lot of like random shuffles, right?
Yeah. So I mean, it's gonna be fun. It's gonna be fun to watch. All I hope.
I just one middle order batsman does well. That's all I hope.
What I hope for is that this situation becomes better. You know, in Pakistan, COVID? India, wherever it is.
Oh no, they're not gonna mess up now. I heard
they hired a a company
If
to
they
manage
mess up now,
to manage the bubble protocol from England, right? A
Yeah.
private company from that. That's what I heard. So hopefully things go well. But I just hope generally, the situation, as we all hope, that everyone stays safe and takes care of themselves, because we need to be really careful. I was watching Shoaib Akhtar's interview, and he said safety comes first. That's the first concern,
For
you
cricket.
have. So that's what's most important. And we have to understand one thing, we can talk about players, we can talk about the way they're playing, their performances, but what we have to understand is they're risking their lives. They're literally traveling, they're going from bubble to bubble, and it's really difficult for them, and we have to think about their families. So really a shout out to all the players, there's massive respect for them. And that comes first, before we judge any player, before we assess their performance, their technique, we have to understand, in the current situation, any player willing to play on that international stage or in T20 leagues or wherever it is, we have to, hats off to them, basically. So I think that should be it.
Yeah, I
So,
think we've discussed.
Thank you so much again. It's been a fun session, really.
Yeah.
And we wish the best of luck to Pakistan team currently for the test match.
Yeah.
I hope we don't have to bat again. I hope we can get them out. It doesn't seem
I
like
hope
it
it- I
recently.
hope
We
it,
just picked up one wicket as far as I was watching.
Yeah.
But
Mhm.
sorry. What were you
No, I was
saying?
just gonna say, I hope it doesn't get too difficult against this Zimbabwe team.
It was sad, watching Babar Azam bat and then hitting it to silly mid-on, straight up.
Yeah.
So but yeah, definitely. I mean, there's a even if it is difficult, I wouldn't mind watching. I want to see how Imran Butt bats in his second innings. I want to see the mentality of his, the way he bats, basically. I want to assess whether he can be consistent in his performances. He wasn't consistent in the past, but I just want to.
He
That's
didn't
one
score
thing.
any
I want to
runs
see
in the
Abid Ali.
past.
I want to see if he can take his game to the next level. And yeah, I think that's it. Thank you guys.
Thank you
And
for watching.
you want to say
Yeah.
don't forget to.
Yeah, don't forget to follow on the Instagram, subscribe, leave any comment on your thoughts. Do you agree with what we said? Do you disagree? All that. And we'll see you next time.
All the best. Bye-bye. Assalamu
Bye.
alaikum. Thank you.